The receipt slipped from Ethan's shaking finger just as his phone began ringing again. It was the school nurse. Her voice was calm, but urgent. Emma's fever had climbed even higher. The doctor had already sent the prescription. The medicine needed to start that evening. Ethan looked inside his wallet. $43. That was everything he had left. Only 2 hours earlier, he had walked out of the engineering company where he'd worked for 11 years, carrying a cardboard box with the framed drawing Emma made him for Father's Day. "We're eliminating your department," his manager had said, unable to meet his eyes. "I'm sorry. No warning, no second chance. Only a final paycheck already swallowed by rent and overdue bills." Before we continue, if stories about hope, sacrifice, and unexpected kindness mean something to you, leave a like, subscribe, and let's continue. 8 years had passed since Ethan lost his wife. Every morning followed the same rhythm. Wake Emma, pack her lunch, walk her to school, work overtime whenever possible, come home exhausted. He never complained aloud. But there was one habit nobody understood. Every evening, after Emma fell asleep, Ethan sat at the kitchen table with a notebook, writing down every dollar they spent. Sometimes he stared at the numbers before quietly crossing something out, usually something for himself. Emma always came first. That afternoon, after leaving the unemployment office with no interviews scheduled, Ethan headed straight toward the pharmacy, repeating the total in his head. 43 doors, just enough. Office workers hurried past under the late afternoon sun, barely noticing anyone around them. Halfway there, Ethan noticed someone sitting alone on a weathered bench outside a small public square. An elderly man, clothes worn, hands trembling as he pulled an old coat tighter despite the warm weather. Most people passed without slowing down. One businessman bumped his shoulder without apologizing. The old man quietly lowered his eyes. Ethan kept walking. 10 steps, then 15. His phone buzzed again. Prescription ready for pickup. He stopped. He thought about Emma lying in bed, her face burning with fever. Then another memory surfaced. Years earlier, after his wife passed, he'd spent an entire night alone in a hospital hallway while the strangers walked past without a word. He remembered exactly how invisible a desperate person could feel. Slowly, Ethan turned around. The old man looked up, surprised. Without saying much, Ethan stepped into a nearby grocery store and spent almost all the cash in his wallet on soup, bread, water, and a first aid kit by the register. When he returned, the old man frowned. "You shouldn't," he murmured. Ethan managed a tired smile. "I know." The old man hesitated before accepting the bag. Finally, with visible embarrassment, he asked, "Why would you do this, when you don't look like you have much yourself?" Ethan looked toward the pharmacy across the street. "I've learned something," he said softly. "The people who need kindness the most are usually the ones too proud to ask for it." For the first time, emotion crossed the old man's face. He lowered his eyes and gripped the bag a little tighter. If you're wondering what happened after Ethan walked away from that bench, stay with us. His hardest decision was still waiting for him. Ethan counted what remained in his wallet as he crossed the street. $11. The prescription cost $38. He stood frozen at the counter, doing the math over and over as if it might change. It didn't. His face burned with a shame he hadn't felt in years, the kind that comes from being an adult who can't afford his own child's medicine. "Sir," the pharmacist asked gently, "would you like a moment?" Ethan stepped aside and called his sister. 3 states away, barely covering her own rent, she sent what she could within minutes. His hands shook, typing his thanks. Not from pride, but from the quiet fear of a man running out of people to call. He picked up Emma's medicine that evening. She recovered within 2 days. He never told her how close it had been. If you're enjoying this story so far, subscribe and stay with us, because what happened next, Ethan never saw coming. The following weeks blurred together. A part-time warehouse shift here, freelance drafting work there. Rent got paid 1 day late. The lights stayed on. Barely. Then, on a Tuesday morning, an unfamiliar number called. a woman introduced herself as an assistant from Halden Regional Health Partners, one of the state's largest private medical networks. There had been an irregularity in a billing record tied to his daughter's hospital visit. Someone needed to speak with him directly. Ethan assumed it was a debt collector in disguise. He almost didn't go. He went anyway, wearing his only ironed shirt, half expecting bad news. The elevator opened onto the top floor of a glass tower downtown. An older man stood by the window, back turned, dressed in a tailored charcoal suit. When he turned around, Ethan stopped walking entirely. It was him. The same face, the same eyes. Only now, nothing about him looked forgotten or invisible. "You don't recognize the coat," the man said, almost amused. "I don't blame you." Ethan's voice came out barely above a whisper. "You were on that bench." "I was. Richard Halden. That afternoon wasn't chance. I sit on that bench once a month, dressed exactly like that, and watch this city walk past me. 6 years now." "Most people look away," Richard continued. "You were the first in a long time who had nothing to spare and gave anyway." He gestured toward a chair. Ethan remained standing. "I'm restructuring part of my foundation, medical debt relief for working families. I need someone who knows what it costs a person to ask for help and won't forget it once the paycheck gets comfortable." Ethan's throat tightened. "I'm not looking for charity." "Good, because I'm not offering any. I'm offering a director's position. Full salary, full benefits. Starting the day your daughter's next fever hits, so it never costs you soup and bread again." For a long moment, Ethan couldn't speak. He thought of the notebook on his kitchen table, of every dollar he'd ever crossed out, of Emma sleeping soundly 2 nights ago because a stranger's medicine mattered less to him than a stranger's dignity. He hadn't done it to be rewarded. That, Richard said quietly, was exactly the point. Months later, Ethan still kept the notebook. He no longer needed to cross anything out. Some nights he simply wrote Emma's name at the top of the page, followed by nothing but good news. He never told this story to feel like a hero. He told it because kindness that costs you something is the only kind that ever truly counts. If this story stayed with you, share it with someone who still believes small decisions can change everything. And tell us in the comments, if you were Ethan, with only $43 left, would you have walked past that bench or stopped?